believe it or not, I get quite a lot of comments on this MX-5 around how the hell it's still holding itself together, its reliability, it's actually still running, and it goes through track day after track day without completely blowing to bits. Well, admittedly, it kind of almost did do that once, but I think what people don't realise is that sometimes what you see on YouTube isn't always 100% what happened in the real world. There's a little bit of smoke and mirrors that goes on here. This thing does take quite a lot of work to keep it holding itself together. So let me take you through just a small brief summary of all the things I had to do after the track day I did last month. Finally, after over a year of not driving this car, thanks to things that happened in the world during 2020, I was able to get the car out at Phillip Island in January 2021, which was the first time it had been driven since December 2019. It had some old fuel in the car, but not too bad anyway. But nonetheless, both myself and the car had to remember how to work together to go fast. It was a difficult and stressful day, but relatively successful, albeit with a fairly extensive list of things at the end of the day that needed some attention. First of which is the wing. Well, kind of. So what happened was around midday or something, perhaps the second or third, probably the second session out on the day, I came in after running around on track for a good 15 minutes or so, and the entire wing had kind of gone. So the two uprights here from about this section up had started to keel over and kind of lean to one side and kind of twist. It was really bad, and the wing was at an angle of something like this, but in this plane. So not a good thing. Clearly these uprights were no longer quite strong enough for the aero drag / downforce, whatever, that the car was kind of putting into them at the top of the main straight and then through turn 1 at Phillip Island. So about 240 kilometers an hour peak speed, and then turn 1 is around 190-ish min speed. And it just kind of overwhelmed the 6mm aluminium plate on either side. In an attempt to get the car back out on track, we strapped a cross brace across the 2 points here, or the 4 points here, with some, what do we use, like a Ocky strap? No, not Ocky strap, like a tie-down strap. I'll put a pic or a video of it here, you'll see it quite distinctly in the orange. But now that I've come back home, I pulled that off and replaced it with some stainless steel wire. So what it does by having a cross means that neither upright can swing in either direction, so they're constantly sort of under tension. But that was the first issue on the list. Number 2, that was the GPS transponder vacating the little bracket that it used to live in over there beside the dash, coming across here and dancing around in the footwell on the passenger side of the car. So clearly the bracket I'd 3D printed was insufficient. So an easy fix for the day, I just taped the thing to the dashboard, and now that I'm home, there's a new bracket over there to hold it in place. Not exactly an exciting one, but these are the things that happen when you fettle too much. And for your interest, there is where said bracket now lives. And now thirdly was the roof. Well, there was kind of a few things with the roof. First of all was I run some just like traditional race tape between the Mazda windscreen frame and the aftermarket fastback fiberglass hardtop, because fiberglass kind of shifts around a little bit. It's not a perfect seal to rubber seal that's here, so the tape kind of seals things up and also gives it a neater look. I use the white tape so it kind of blends in, looks all pretty. On the track day, first session out, year-old tape decided to fail for whatever reason and started flapping about, and so it kind of broke from the middle somewhere and was flapping about all over the roof, making a big mess, looking stupid. It was a little frustrating. It also meant a whole heap of air and noise came in through the cabin. The roof, and particularly this sort of centre section, kind of lifted up. It was a bit of a disappointment. The remedy for this was obviously new tape, but you can't just slap new tape on where old race tape used to live because it's all gooey and shit. So the old tape has to come off. I had to clean it all with acetone, get it as clean and tidy as I could. We then had to loosen the brackets that hold the roof in place, squish the roof down, try and get it nice and tight against the seal, retape it all now that it was all clean and sturdy, and then also on the underside, to try and help mitigate this moving around so much, I've added 2 extra brackets kind of here and here rather than just the traditional spots where the soft top would latch to. So there's 2 extra brackets sort of further in centre to add extra support to pull the roof down and hold it against the windscreen frame. That's this part of the roof. There's also a bit of trouble down this way. So on this part of the roof is our rear window. And the problem with the rear window is the far corners here and here started to lift. I guess the Sikaflex seal glue just wasn't quite holding up anymore, and that meant that the window started to lift. Thankfully it's still in place. It was only a little bit of a lift, but inherently there is lift in this position, and that meant that the roof started to, or the window started to flap around a little bit. The short-term remedy was some race tape across here just to kind of hold it in place. The long-term solution is I've got a new hole drilled here with a countersunk bolt and a nut on the other side, and same one up here on this corner as well. They're an aluminium bolt because that's the only thing I can find that's in a black colour that won't go rusty. You get the steel ones that are black and they go rusty. I don't know how you can get, like, I guess you'd have to paint a bolt or something to get it to be black. And I wanted black to try and kind of blend in with the windscreen frame or the window frame colour. So yeah, I only really need a bolt in those 2 spots. Everywhere else it has been Sikaflexed, but I guess they're the kind of hard point, or the stress points, so to speak, or the positions of the window that are most likely to come free. At least now the window won't run away on me. The third item on the list was an interesting one, and something that one of you keen viewers picked up on as very likely happening, which it did. So you'll remember recently we put the drop spindle, Keisler drop spindles in the rear of this car on both left and right sides. And I pointed out that the energy suspension polybush kit washers that were on the lower rear outer control arm mounting positions, the washers were quite large in diameter and would foul on the rim because of the Keisler drop spindles. The solution I had to that kind of, which wasn't a solution in the end, was to grind the washers down and reduce their diameter. However, I didn't do it enough, and as predicted, they did touch the rim slightly. There were 2 things that occurred as a result of that, really. The first was the washers kind of ground themselves away until they were no longer interfering. And secondly, they made a terrible racket in the cabin. However, I didn't hear it with the helmet on. It wasn't until I reviewed the YouTube footage or the GoPro footage afterwards that I realised that the noise, I could hear a noise, and it was a terrible grinding noise through heavy cornering. That was literally the rim grinding against the washers of the lower control arm brackets. Washers. Yeah. Terrible. So the dude who predicted that happening, well done, credit to you. I was worried that it would happen, but I kept my eye out for it. Thankfully, the rims were basically fine. There was a little bit of paint taken off them, but no real damage. The damage seems to have gone to the washers, thankfully. So what I've done is I've taken the rims off, cleaned up the inner barrel of them all, painted them so that, because they'd sort of lost their paint, which is kind of a black basically, painted them and put them back on, and I've also removed the washers and put smaller ones on. Just got rid of the energy suspension washers completely. Don't use them if you're running Keisler drop spindles. So with the black barrel on the rim now, if it by chance something rubs, like it's not going to rub anymore, but by chance if something did, at least the black paint will tell me where marks have come back, if they could. So, a worrying one, but thankfully nothing catastrophic. One of the things I've always been proud of is my heat shield over the turbo. I feel like it works really well. It wasn't too hard to make, a little bit expensive. I suppose this material can get a little costly, but it's good, it's easy to work with. Surprisingly, for the first time, it let me down a little bit. Well, kind of. It seemed to have gotten too hot and it melted a hole in a point just near where I guess the manifold gets to its hottest. And yeah, literally, there was a little bit of a hole in this heat shield, which I was surprised about, but it's important to have this heat shield. It is very, very valuable as part of this engine bay and this setup. It keeps everything else from melting to pieces. Goes to show it's hot enough to melt. I guess that's aluminium, like sheeting. It's only thin, but it was hot enough to melt it. So I patched it up with a new section across the top there, patched up that hole. But yeah, that was another one on the list of things that just over time start to kind of fall apart a little bit. So that's just some of the dramas with the car. There are a few things that are still a work in progress. For example, I need a new shift boot and I'm going to chuck a new shifter bushing in because still having some trouble with that gearbox. Honestly, I just wish I had a new 6-speed or something because, oh yeah, it's kind of crunchy. I had an issue with the fuel, well not really with the fuel pump. I've pulled the fuel pump out because through heavy left-hand turns and longer sustained corners, such as turn 2 at Phillip Island, often on the exit, I'd run out of fuel. Basically, I think the fuel pump just was going, I've got no fuel, it's all gone to the other side of the fuel tank. So I've taken it out. I wanted to check the fuel sock. It's the correct one, it's in good condition and it's clean. So instead, I'm looking at maybe getting one of the bigger like hydromats from, I think Holly make them, or something. I need a solution to sustain longer cornering other than some sort of swirled pot solution, because that's just outside of the budget really. And then thirdly, I've got some new door stickers to put on, particularly one of the doors that's been all damaged, so I'll probably just do the one and keep the other sticker as a spare. But yeah, some new stickers for the doors. And I think that's the list for the moment. There's still a few things in progress, as I mentioned, such as all the junk in the car at the moment, because the fuel tank is, you can kind of see through the hole in the seat there. I've got the cover off for the fuel tank because I've got to do that fuel pump. But that is the list of things. So what does all this mean? Well, it's really quite simple. 1, this car's never finished. There's always something to do on it. 2, it's not always perfect. Yes, things require maintenance, and this thing requires probably 3 times the maintenance of a normal MX-5, probably more. In terms of time, a lot more. But 3, I've had to do stuff over and over again, and things fail and I replace them. It just is the way it is. A lot of the stuff on this car has been done, broken, fixed. Next weak link in the chain comes along. For example, you do something with the engine, and then you do something with the turbo, and then you have to do something with the fuel system, and then you have to do something with the ignition system. Over and over and over, you repair a thing, and then that just highlights the next weak link, the next weakest link, the next thing that needs to be repaired in the chain. So it's not magic, it's just a lot of work. It's up to you if you really want to do all this. My advice, stay non-turbo, stay naturally aspirated. If you want to go fast though, it's pretty quick. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that was insightful. You know, this is what really happens when you've got a DIY a turbo MX-5 race car thing, and yeah, it's hard work, okay? Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.